Hi guys, it's me again, Richard, the puppet person. I hope you're all doing well. In this workshop, we're going to look at how to apply characters to puppets, okay? In the last workshop, I think we sort of looked more into how to turn everyday objects into puppets, okay? And in that, we very briefly touched on character, but now I just want to go into a bit more detail on it, really. So, what is a character? That's the biggest question to ask ourselves first of all, isn't it? Well, to me, a character is really just a personality, okay? A different personality. And when we think about it that way, we can think, well, that means everyone's got a different personality, so everyone must be a character, okay? And that's important to think because the world is a very varied and interesting place, okay? And part of that is because there are so many characters in the world. And that's what makes it fun and interesting. Think how boring it would be if we were all exactly the same. Yeah, rubbish. Next of all, it's important to think when you're making characters that you shouldn't really inhibit yourself, okay? Just listen to yourself. Your imagination is a very powerful tool, as I've said before, and it should always be listened to, okay? If we restrict ourselves, if we start thinking, oh no, people won't like it when I do that, then we're not really serving the character because we don't know that, okay? And also, if someone thinks that something you do isn't very good, that doesn't mean it's true, okay? It's just their opinion, okay? People have different opinions on things. It doesn't mean they're right and you're wrong, okay? So always listen to yourself. If you think something's a good idea, it probably is, okay? So, when we're making puppet characters, there's something very important we need to consider. And I like to turn to my favourite puppeteer, who was called Jim Henson, who I'm sure most of you will know as the creator of the Muppets, okay? And he said, when creating puppet characters, that you have to remember that puppetry is a symbolic act, okay? It's symbolic of society, of a person you know, of yourself, okay? Whenever you're doing a puppet, you're really bringing a part of yourself or a part of society or a part of a particular person in society to the puppet. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And that's how we comment on it, okay? Puppets usually just comment on things that we know in society, okay? So a really good example to think of with that is the amount of times you've seen a politician turn into a puppet, okay? Or turn into a cartoon, okay? That's because authority figures, in particular, are really fun to poke fun at, first of all. And they're also really easy to make characters of because we're so used to seeing them, and they often have unusual character traits or elements to them that make them easy to characterize, okay? So think about that when you're making your characters, okay? So first of all, let's look at it this way, okay? Let's go back to the idea of looking at an everyday object. So we have an object here, okay? And I want to apply a character to this object. Now, it's just a green vase that's shaped like a cactus. It's not even a real cactus. But when I look at it for a while, I can see that, okay, it's got these little bits here, okay? And that sort of, to me, makes him feel like he might be going, yeah, which makes him immediately makes him indecisive, okay? So I've got a character already. This thing is going to be indecisive, okay? So I'm going to stick some eyes on him, because that always makes things better. Okay. And suddenly, he's got a lot more character, hasn't he? And that's just applying the eyes to him. So, now, what else can this tell us? So, he's quite small, so we have to think about the size, as I've mentioned before as well. Okay, because size can tell us a lot about what this character is experiencing. If he's very small, and he's a bit indecisive, then he's probably quite scared of everything, because everything's bigger than him, okay? And that can manifest in the way he moves. So if he's quite small, he's probably quite quick. Yeah. He's probably quite nervous, okay? And that's going to affect the way he breathes. So maybe he's going to be... Yeah. We also need to think about his age, okay? So... Again, to me, because he's quite small and potentially energetic, he's probably quite young, which then also adds to the indecisive thing a little bit because he doesn't necessarily know what he's doing. Okay, let's see how that changes him. Okay, We could also age him up. We can make him older based on that, because that can still go with the indecisive thing. And that will change his character a little bit as well. You see? So if he's older, he'll also move slower. Okay, he'll take more time about things. He might be a bit grumpier about things. Okay, it brings us a whole new element of things to think about. Okay, another important thing to think about when you're characterizing puppets, as well as thinking about the size and the shape of the object and the age of the object, okay, is, do they remind you of anyone you know? Okay, and it doesn't have to be a relative necessarily. It could be someone you've seen on the TV, again, a politician or a TV presenter, or even your favorite character in a video game or book, anything like that, okay? And do they have a personality trait, okay, which, you know, a habit, basically. So, you know, if you know someone who always does this, yeah, I don't know many people who always do that, but someone might, and that's a personality trait, which immediately makes something more alive. Or maybe you might know someone who always goes, okay, that's a personality trait and a habit. What happens if I start applying that to the old version of this little cactus creature we've created? See what I mean? As that little habit. Now, if you're doing a trait or a personality tick to someone you know, maybe don't let them know that you're making fun of them, but it's still important to think about and consider, okay? What else can I tell you? If you can do an impression of someone, that's quite useful. Yeah. If you can do a bad impression of someone, that's useful too, because it's still just the character of the puppet. Okay. And what else can I tell you? Oh yes, it's important as well when you're making puppet characters to try and push the extremes. Okay. It's always better to go further and rein it back, if that makes sense. So if I make him really big, okay, it's a bit silly and ridiculous. I know it lends itself to that, but then I can start reining that back a little bit. Yeah, just to make him a bit more believable, if such a thing is possible with this guy. Okay, and finally, I just want to touch on the noises, okay, and the sounds that these things make, okay? So, you might be able to do an impression of someone or a bad impression of someone. That's great if you can. But they don't have to talk either, okay? They could do what I was doing with this guy, which is what we call grumolo, okay? Which is just where you talk in sort of nonsense noise. It's this sort of... You know? By doing that, you are relying more on the physical character elements of a creature, okay? And it sort of removes the idea of having to think on your feet and answer questions and all that sort of thing. And mostly, it's just important to remember that puppets are really just living cartoon characters, okay? They're extremes. Puppets either love or hate something. They're very rarely indifferent about something. And yeah, just really push the energy and explore and enjoy, because that's the most important thing when you're creating a puppet character. Okay? So there you go, guys. I hope that's useful, interesting, and fun for you. But just have a look at trying to create some characters. And remember to think about their size, the way they move, the sounds that they make, the age they might be, if you can do an impression of someone, if you can think of a personality trait, and just try and apply all of that and see what you come up with. Remember, no right or wrong answers.